And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com, presented as always by our partners at the Holy Grail. Super Bowl Sunday. If you're not having a gathering at your abode, why not head down to the Grail, enjoy the banks. Supposed to be a nice day, and get you some good food, have a few beverages, and watch the Kelsey brothers in the Bearcat Bowl. That's what we've deemed it here. It's not the Kelsey Bowl as everyone else has called it. We're calling it the Bearcat Bowl. I'm sure we'll get to that here in a little bit, but let's get right to it. Got Dave Simone and special guest tonight, University of Cincinnati Athletic Director John Cunningham, and we will get this show on the road. There we go. Okay, I was sorry, Aaron. There we
Let
go.
the man produce.
He was typing, so I was trying to help him out. And then right as I was trying to help him out, he got back over. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How's everything going? Hanging in there. Yeah,
it's going in there. It's hanging in there. Let's start with the Bearcat Bowl. Something like this, and I'm sure most everybody in town wanted to see the Bengals, but for the University of Cincinnati, to have two guys that have been such great ambassadors and have become such stars through their podcast this year, how much has that generated, do you think, just added interest for the university to have them? They're wearing UC gear. They're talking Bearcats. Their podcast this week, they've got their dad in a double-sided Cincinnati jersey with Travis on the front and Jason on the back and talking about their time at Cincinnati. What kind of interest and what kind of effect have you guys felt from these two guys being such champions for UC, and Brian Cook as well? Don't want to forget Brian.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're going to be on a national stage like this, you want your very best to represent you, and I think we have that with Travis and Jason, and it's the yin and yang of those two. Outside of maybe the Manning brothers, they're kind of right there with them in terms of their ability to handle media and have some personality, but doing it in a really unique, fun way. And I haven't heard all of their podcasts, but the clips I've heard have been just great. And like I said, they're very different personalities. Those that have been around the program kind of understand that. And I think that's what makes them kind of enjoyable too. But the other piece is Travis is very clear. When you talk about everything that he's accomplished in first ballot Hall of Famer, but Jason's a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. I mean, when you're talking, what five Pro Bowls, 6 Pro Bowls, whatever it is, I may be off, but I mean that's first ballot Hall of Fame type level. And so to have both those guys come out of our program, be in the league for this long and represent us this way, and just continue to talk. They're not forgetting about the Bearcats either. They always talk about it, and they remember their time here and what we meant to them, and obviously it's reciprocated from our standpoint.
I think you're talking, and I don't know that this is even really, Dave, you're more of the NFL historian than me. Jason's a top 5 center of all time. Is that safe to say, Dave?
I mean,
up there.
He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm sure there's not a ton of centers in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's top 5, top 10, something like that, I would guess. I mean, he's been All-Pro several times, Pro Bowl several times. So, yeah, I mean, he's one of the best that's ever played the position. He's, double-digit years in the league. So, yeah, I mean, he's as good as we've seen in the last 20, 25 years, that's for sure.
And then Travis is going to be a top 2 tight end and probably not 2. So and then you had Sauce All-Pro this year. Your football program produced as many pros, All-Pros as everybody but Alabama, I think, was the only one that had more first-team All-Pros than Cincinnati. It's been a wild ride, like, to watch the NFL now. You see the ascension of Derek Forrest, and Kobe Bryant had a great year, and Chris Moore's still hanging around in the league, and you look around and it's almost every NFL game has a Bearcat presence, and that just speaks to where the program has risen to.
There's no question. it's going to be fun to watch as we continue to go too, and get to see these guys kind of come into their own and be in more Super Bowls and do special things. So excited about the game on Sunday, and it's a bit of a soft landing for not having the Bengals in the game for Cincinnati fans for sure.
You guys had somebody there at Media Day, right? Had
Zach,
boots on the ground.
Yeah, Zach Stipe went down there, and I think appropriately so, and was able to kind of be around the guys, and so I haven't downloaded completely with him on how it went, but I'm glad we had them out there.
Yeah, Dave, what do you got?
Let's start with what happened last week with the announcement of the TQL partnership and what that means for UC and moving forward. You guys obviously had the press conference and talked about a lot of it. I'm not going to ask you, the details of the, amount or anything like that. I'm sure you guys will get that out in due time. One thing that I did notice in the press release talked about their specific investment in whatever you want to call it, the indoor practice facility, the performance center. Can you elaborate on kind of what that piece of it involves? I know you guys talked a lot about inside nipper and stuff like that, but what about that element of it? Can you kind of give us some details on?
Well, yeah, I mean, to the credit of TQL, they wanted to be a partner with us in a very strategic way, and part of that was, what are the needs of UC right now? And so we said our needs are this building, and it's a building that's going to impact all of our student athletes for years to come. It's going to be a centerpiece of our move into the Big 12. And so, as we talked about that, then it was kind of a natural fit for those resources that we would get over the length of the contract to go toward our efforts to fundraise for that facility. So, nothing specific other than they just, as a great partner they'll say, how can we help you be better? And the way they could do that right now is with a gift to that facility.
Does that, I know, the Bengals have done it. You guys are not doing it. You try to name a lot of things. Does that include naming rights, or is that something that you guys are maybe looking to another partner with for the facility? And then my other one was, there's been a lot of talk for years now about baseball. So just kind of like the updates on any update on movement for the stadium, naming rights for that as well. But also is naming rights for the facility something that's in the works as well?
Yeah, they are. We are still working on the naming rights piece to that, and we'll have more information soon on that. So that'll be another great day for us. But certainly on the baseball side, to be honest, we have not really even presented that at this point. We just have had a number of different things going on, and certainly the $100+ million performance center was right at the top of the list. But I will say on the baseball investment side, new video board going in this week, which will be awesome for that program. And then we advanced. We are scheduled to put new baseball turf in, I think, in 3 years. But we advanced that, so we're going to do it right after the end of this season. We'll put brand new turf in, and that'll look great. That'll be important. And then on top of that, we brought in a architectural firm to do a evaluation of what we need to do to make that facility Big 12 ready. And for Coach Guggens and that team, that probably means a pitching lab, some more indoor hitting space, some work on the locker room, and maybe even some loge seating or something like that we could bring some fans out and have them kind of join the fun out there. So all those things are in the works, and we know we've got some growth to do on the baseball side. There's no doubt about that.
Keep going, Dave. You're on a roll.
Oh, okay. Well, let's stay with capital improvements and facilities, and let's just get to the indoor practice facility. What can you tell us about timeline as far as where you guys are in the timeline, breaking ground, renderings, release to the public, just, Coach Satterfield's involvement now that he's on board? How has that changed what if at all, what you guys had been working on, and then now like what his ideas of what he'd like to see in the football specific elements of it.
Yeah. So timing wise, bubble comes down here in the next week or two, and excavation starts. The project itself has a lot of excavation work that needs to be done just because of where it's situated. And so that's going to take some time, and that's going to start here soon. So I guess that you could say that's the official groundbreaking. Obviously then steel goes in and all those things happen, and we'll celebrate that when that happens as well. But we're starting. The project is going. We've talked about a year build for the indoor portion, another 6 months on top of that for the performance center. So we'll try to stick with that timeline. And then certainly when the new football staff came in, it was something that we shared with them very early on. The one thing about these performance centers is they're I don't want to say they're cookie cutter because it's going to be spectacular and we're going to make it our own. But in terms of what's in the space, it's very consistent across
Right.
So we kind of had the space of it built out close to 100,000 square feet, 90,000 square feet plus. And then it's sort of just what fits in that box. And there were certainly some things that Coach Satterfield had emphasis on. He's got a bigger recruiting staff, for example. So we had to figure out a place to kind of hold our recruiting staff that's now tripled from what we had previously. So, that just meant that we had to kind of shift some things around. And there were some things in the weight room that are different based on kind of the way that that our new strength conditioning coach, Nico, kind of, wanted it. And so, again, it's sort of taking a space that you have and just rearranging some things within that space, but no large scale changes to anything in terms of the new staff.
Is there, I guess, two parts. Is the overall look and feel going to be kind of a one-off to campus, or is it kind of going to fit in with anything that the way a lot of the buildings on campus are designed? And are there any kind of cool features that you think fans would be like, oh, that's pretty cool that they're going to have that? Is there any of those that you're allowed to kind of give us?
I don't know that I'm allowed to give you, but remember, this is an architectural school and takes pride in it. So that there are going to be some elements that will be different, that will look different. The fact that we're on the corner of campus when you come in, that plays into the design as well. We're not just going to have a barn go up there. It's gonna look nice. It's gonna be spectacular when it's done, to be honest with you. And I'm excited, obviously, to share where we end up. But that will come in due time, and we'll
Sure.
get those out. Yeah.
Do we have a time window on when we might see renderings, when we might see visual proof, or not proof, but visual pleasure in what it might look like?
I would tell you if I knew a date for sure. I don't know exactly how they want to roll this out in terms of when the tweaks are all done, if they want to roll it out at that point, or if they feel like they can roll it out a little bit before all those tweaks are done. But we got this thing going quickly, and so it was a project that was fundraising was underway, design was underway, and construction timeline was underway, kind of all at the same time. And that's how we felt like we needed to do this so that we could get it up and ready to roll as quickly into our Big 12 stint as possible. So that has led to a design that hasn't been released yet, but we're working on it all the time. I've seen a couple different looks at it, and so when it's ready to go public, we certainly will celebrate that too.
You can show us here. Nobody's watching. It's fine.
I've heard that.
Guys, don't tell anybody. How much of a challenge has rising construction costs, the everything that's going on in the building market? I know things have kind of skyrocketed from when you initially announced this. How much of a challenge has that been, kind of navigating those waters?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. Anybody that's involved in construction or involved in any building project right now can speak to it, and so it's a challenge. It's not unique to us in any way. I was talking to some ADs recently about projects that they're working on, and everybody's going through the same thing. So I give a lot of credit to the forethought of our architects and designers on campus who quickly ordered some of the key pieces to the building, so that we could make sure that we lock those in, and we don't run into any delays with some of those key pieces. So that was really important. It was explained to me how that was done and why it was done in the time that it was done. So I'm not a construction expert, so as we go through this, I'm learning as well. But certainly, every single item seems to be a little bit more expensive than it was 2 years ago.
How about a quick shift in basketball locker room upgrade? Can you give us any details on that? I know just from being down there near the media room, it looks like everything has kind of gotten started and the process is underway.
Yeah, that one's going. And that was when talking to Wes and Michelle before the season, and kind of saying, hey, we can wait until March to start it, or we can try to start it in the season so that we know that it's ready to go for next season. And both of them, without hesitation, said, let's start it in the season. So they've moved out of their locker space, so they're actually in a different locker room right now. And they were that excited to get the thing going and get it started. So it's underway. Obviously, it's a rehab of the locker room, but really it's a movement out into what was the arena club, to build out a lounge space that mirrors each other for men's basketball and women's basketball. They spend so much time, those student athletes, in Fifth Third, and really haven't had any place to just sit down and relax and hang out in between maybe getting some training work done, some treatment done in practice, or film and practice. Now they have a space to relax, do some homework, hang out, build some camaraderie, and it's certainly what everybody around the country has. So we're gonna have something really special when it's done.
Is there a window on when that'll be complete yet?
I mean, we're gunning for having it done before the season starts next year. So
Okay.
I think everything's going well so far. So that's the hope, that it's ready to roll for next year.
You're keeping Tobler busy.
We really are. Yeah. Fun to watch, and they are. They all like those projects. They're everybody enjoys working on them. They're energized by them. But they all have specific challenges to them at the same time. So we certainly are.
So you guys are a little under 5 months from July 1st, which is official entrance into the Big 12. What are kind of some of your priorities to get done from now until then as a department that you feel is important, that on that first day you're truly, as we've been saying, day one ready?
Hiring some positions. So we've had some out there that we knew we had to build out. So I've talked a lot about our mental health role that Lanisha Nickel took over, and she has a chance to hire 2 additional people to help her. One is currently in the works to be hired soon. And then on the nutrition side, we brought in Dylan Freeze from Ohio State, and kind of the same thing. He has an opportunity now to build out a team and really focus in there, especially as we build a brand new nutrition center. There's uniqueness to that, and you really have to have some dietary support. And so he's going to have that now. And so we're excited to get those 2 things going. Those are keys to us moving into the Big 12. And then the other thing that we're really excited about is that we've been building out our ESPN Plus crew, and that it is something that's a little bit forgotten about, I think, just in terms of as you go into the Big 12, the expectation is that your ESPN Plus broadcasts are going to be linear ready, meaning they're going to be really well done, multi-camera, really, really high level productions. And so we were able to hire somebody that we're getting from ESPN that will come in and has been working at ESPN for 20 years. He's going to be an unbelievable asset to our department. And he's going to be able to come in and see what we're doing and make it the best in the Big 12. I really believe that we hired the best executive producer in the Big 12. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a lot better than the Tulane game was.
I was gonna say, can you give them some pointers?
Yeah. I think they were having some internet issues, but that's the type of thing you can't have at 12 level. You've got to, if you're going to be on ESPN Plus for the Big 12, it's going to be, like I said, linear ready, meaning that they could on if they choose, move it at any time to ESPN2 or even ESPN. And if they do that, then we get an additional check coming back from ESPN. So that there's a revenue piece to it too. If we can get to a point where we can produce high level productions and we can get some revenue.
I mean, I don't know how many people know. I mean, the diehards might know, but I don't know how many people truly know like how much the athletic department and CCM have kind of been at the forefront of this whole like in-house studio production thing, where I believe even last year ESPN got to a point where you guys were running it so well that they weren't even sending crews from the production standpoint, and you guys were producing the games yourselves and just basically, for lack of a better term, uploading it to ESPN Plus.
Yep, that's exactly right. I'm glad you mentioned CCM because it is a unique partnership with them. They've been great. That whole crew over there working with us, and it's it becomes an educational piece for us. We're developing talent through CCM. They're able to have their students work directly on projects that they can turn around and say, I've actually put a game on ESPN2 or ESPN Plus. And so it's going to be a bit of a pipeline going forward for CCM, which is really neat too. So yeah, I would say cutting edge, and we're going to continue to grow it and expand it. And I really believe we'll be the best in the Big 12 in terms of our production on ESPN Plus.
I wanted to ask you about the football schedule that was just released, and just what is your involvement in that? Like, do you say things that you don't want to Commissioner Yormark or whoever is kind of like building that out, and then just kind of your overall reaction to the first Big 12 football schedule?
Yeah, they do ask if there's any request or two that you might have that they could work in possibly, but there's a lot of rules already built into their algorithms, I guess. I mean, it's really complicated, right? So it all goes into a computer, and they're constantly tweaking it and working on it and getting it right. So it's probably much more complicated than people think, and much more difficult to get it all to align and meet all the different rules that you set out, like not having more than 2 road games in a row and all those types of things. So those are all in there, but they do ask, maybe, we told them that we wanted a game in October for homecoming, for example, right? We didn't want to get blocked out of that. And so that was important to us. So those types of things pop up. But for the most part, we're the newbies. We didn't have a lot to say. We're excited about any schedule I think that was going to come our way, but obviously to have Oklahoma come in to start the schedule was awesome. To have 5 home games out of the gate was really, really important and big for us. So we have 7 home games total, with 5 being Big 12 home games. And then, we got Iowa State and Baylor. Zach doing his homework the other day. It's the first time we've ever played Iowa State or Baylor. So that's kind of a neat little nugget. And then on the Oklahoma piece, the other thing Zach mentioned, and he's right, is there's only been 14 teams that have been in the college football playoff, and Oklahoma and Cincinnati are 2 of those 14. So that matchup right there is kind of special just in that sense.
Say hi to Pickle, John. That's Pickle. She's the third member of this show.
Yeah. From a bigger scheduling kind of philosophy, how much are you guys, or are you trying to work your schedules now with the Big 12 and the 9? Well, we'll see. I'm assuming 9. Who knows when Texas and Oklahoma leave? but like to try to get 7 home games as often as possible. I know that's something that's happened every so often, but it's a little, it was a little bit harder before. Is that something that you guys consciously try to do, or is it just how things shake out?
It's a little bit of how things shake out, especially this year. Obviously, we had 2 home games in our non-conference already, so to get 5, that's that gets you to your 7. It may or may not happen going forward. Next year we'll have 4 home Big 12 games. So we know we'll be at 6. We'll always be at 6. We'll make sure that on those years that we have 4 Big 12 home games, that we'll have 2 home games to go along with that to get to 6. I think every so often it will pop up that we'll have 7 games, but we don't count on that.
Something I don't think the dogs are excited too. They saw Pickle walking across the screen. The Wes Miller extension. I don't know that we've had a chance to talk to you about that yet. Just the importance of getting something like that done, the commitment when you look at the buyout on both sides, the commitment that both sides are making to each other, and how much does that speak to, and how much do maybe people not know kind of the level of respect that Wes has around the country from maybe a lot of other people in your job? Everybody talks about that short list that sits in your desk.
Yeah.
He's on a lot of those.
Well, yeah, thank you. I agree with that. And I've been told that by other ADs for sure, but also inside sources that would be able to share that information with me, that have had conversations about him and just how well he's respected in our industry. Obviously the youngest the youngest head coach in the country to have that many wins, I guess below 40, and now he's turned 40. Whatever that stat is. So he had that combination. This is what I talked about when we hired him. He had that combination of being a proven winner and a builder of a program, as well as still being young. So 10 years of head coaching experience and still having that youthful nature that I think you need these days to handle all the things that are coming at you, and the energy that he brings. So, it was exactly what you said. It was a commitment on both sides, and that's what we were looking for. He wanted to be here. We wanted him to be here. I have no doubt in my mind he's the right fit for us. And given the resources that he needs, he's going to get this thing done. And so we've got to lock arms with him and help him get there. Yeah, I'm just excited about the direction of that program. And, I really respect Wes's effort, and you're going to see it on the recruiting side of things. You already have, but you're going to see it even more coming down the road. He is nonstop recruiting the best talent in the country, and he wants to win a national championship. So let's help him get it done.
Anything else, Dave, before we let John go? I
got one more quick one. Just we're about 3 months into Cincy Reigns, and we all know how vital, name, image, and likeness has become. Just your assessment of that program and fans' involvement and corporate involvement, and just kind of what you think that's done so far. I think it was launched sometime in November. So I know it's still very young, but just kind of where you see things with that right now.
I think there's still a lot of education left to be done, and that's on us to continue to get out there as much as possible. I know we've talked to Cincy Reigns about some upcoming kind of fireside chat type things that they're working on, and some programming that they're working on. So we've got to continue to get out there. I've got to continue to get out there and talk about it. We certainly are behind the scenes having conversations with individual donors on a weekly basis, and we're using our resources to try to connect our donors to Cincy Reigns, and just in education. We're not the ones asking for the resources. We're asking them to contact Cincy Reigns and make sure that they're understanding what that's about and why it's so important. The battle right now is being fought in the world of NIL, and so we just need our fan base to understand it, believe in it, trust us. We've got to understand that we've got to make NIL fit for Cincinnati, which I think we are. And that's going to be important too. We're going to do it the right way. So I hope that people understand the importance of it and get behind it. If they have questions, they can always reach out to myself and I can direct them, or they can reach out directly to Greg Harrell, who works for us through a company called Altius. And so we certainly, there's things you can do to learn more about it and find out ways you can help, but we need everybody. That's how we're going to be successful, is to really attack the NIL space and grow it.
And reach out to Brian Fox directly. He's not very busy, so he's got time for everybody to contact him directly.
They do, but I know you're saying that sarcastically. He's got a lot of things going on, but I will say this: they've got a great website and a website that you can learn a lot by just going to that website and checking it out. And again, you talk about doing it the right way, building it out the right way. That's what Cincy Reigns has done, and we can use help from everybody. And that's how Cincinnati's going to be successful in that world.
Me being sarcastic, John? No. It's not my style at all. It's not my style at all. We appreciate it, man. We love having you check in every couple months and letting us know where things stand with the athletic department. I know the fan base loves it, and everybody looks forward to it when you can take a little bit of time and chat with us. Anytime, guys. I appreciate what you guys do and the community of Bearcat supporters and the passionate community that you form. So I just got done reading a book. It's called The Book of Joy, and it talks about the importance of community. And I was reading it, and I was getting on this podcast. I thought, well, I'm getting on a podcast of people that have a passion about something that's really, really special. So keep it going, guys. And Chad, as always, we're thinking about you and your family at the center of everything that we do. So much appreciated as always. The support has been unbelievable, and I know Kelly's seeing Wes mention her a couple times in press conferences, and the support that she's gotten from cheer and dance and the Bearcat and all of that stuff has been a big help in getting us through the past 6 weeks and 6 years and whatever the heck it's been. But it's been amazing, and I thank you for checking in on me from time to time, and it definitely means a lot to us. So thank you very much. All right, guys, take care. Appreciate you, John. Thank you. John Cunningham, Athletic Director, University of Cincinnati. Always great to get him to check in. And it's going to be, we're going to have a star-studded February, Dave. With John Cunningham tonight, we're working on a couple things.
Oh, okay. News to me.
Well, we're headed towards spring football.
I mean, we do have a possible pretty big guest later on tonight as well.
Later on. I think he's golfing right now, right?
Well, he's doing something. Some illegal in a few states, but
I don't want to know. No, I don't want to know. I don't. All right, I'm gonna open the floor to you. I've got to go get the dogs to shut up for a minute, but we had a podcast. We had the part of the punctuation last night. We had a nightcap afterwards. Your takes on what we saw, unfortunately, play out last night in New Orleans.
I mean, there are two things that I think about. One is obviously I feel terrible for Rob Fennessy, and it doesn't seem like Vic's injury is nearly as severe, but I still feel bad for him. He's been playing at a very high level, and you lose, truly your main, I'm not going to say only, but your very influential post presence offensively and defensively on the road. You kind of withstand that for a little while, and then it goes away and you end up losing a close game. So those injuries obviously affect the outcome of the game, especially Vic's. You can't lose one of your top three guys for, what would you say, 70% of the game, 75%?
He played 7 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know the exact number, but it was about half of the first half. So of course that is going to affect the outcome. But there is a number that is stuck in my head that I just cannot get around, and that's 2.92. Do you know what that is?
Tulane points per possession in the final 5 minutes in overtime.
Well, it's points. It's not points per possession. It's points per minute in the second half and overtime. So, and I know Vic and Rob them not playing have a direct correlation to that. At the same time, I'm like, that is so atrocious that in 25 minutes you give up 70-something points. I'm just kind of at a loss from that angle of things.
Yeah, I mean it's a worse. What happened was absolutely worst case scenario because of the team they were playing and how they play and what the guys provided that they lost. Tulane is one of the best teams in the country from two. And the reason that they're one of the best teams in the country, I think all of their perimeter players shoot over 50% from two, which is just absurd for small guards. Like
Right.
they are just so good at playing downhill off the bounce, making you commit to a way to stop them. And then they pass it really, really well also. So like I was explaining it a little bit on the board tonight or earlier today. So when Vic goes out and you don't have Rob, there's really not anybody on the team that's going to be able to stay in front of Jalen Cook.
No.
So you have somebody shaded, the wing on the strong side or the wing on the side that he's working towards. You have somebody shaded to try to discourage him from getting, straight line downhill. And then what they were doing is as soon as that guy would take a step, they were back cutting. And it's pick your poison. Like they're so good at both of those things that it's very hard to keep them from what they want to do. If you have no rim protection and you don't have a guard that can keep Jalen Cook at least somewhat bottled up.
I mean, should you then not kind of play like a little bit more of a sagging, because they don't play zones. I'm not going to say zone, but like, do you then not
I wouldn't
deny the wing so hard?
They weren't denying the wing. That's why the wing was getting backdoor cuts, is because the guy guarding the wing was sagging.
Well, that shouldn't be possible. If you're sagging, you shouldn't be able to back cut someone.
Well, you're not committing all the way. And if you look, those back cuts were in very tight windows. Like all they're waiting for is you're shading in his direction. And then as soon as you take one step to commit, they back cut and they throw the pass when you're on the way.
I guess.
Like it's not a double situation. It's designed to kind of quote unquote intimidate him from coming downhill, because there's supposed to be the concern of a second defender either stepping in to take a charge but they were ready for it. And maybe there should have been something else that they were ready to do. But guess what, Dave? You know what you don't do in practice? You don't say, okay, guys, we're going to work on what happens when we don't have Vic and Rob.
Right, but they didn't have him for the majority of the game, and I just, like, he gave up almost 3 points a minute. That's nearly impossible.
Yeah, they were getting a basket almost every trip down the floor. And they were getting to the line. Like, it's just a bad, like, I think what we learned last night, Dave, was how much this group and Wes Miller had smoke and mirrors their way into playing pretty elite defense. Since December 1st, Ken Pom had them 15th in the country in defense, in adjusted defensive efficiency. And that's how important Vic is to this back line of this defense, because they don't have a center if they don't have Vic. Rob and Odie, or Odie and Kalu are forwards. They're not a center. Like they play center in today's style of basketball. But when it comes to defense, neither of those guys is capable of being a 5. And the other problem with Tulane is because of Cross, they pull your big out and they get him away from the rim. And now you don't really have anybody back there. At least with Vic, he's got the mobility to kind of play halfway where he can still recover. And at least, I mean, you saw it in the first half. They only had 28 points in the first half. And whatever they figured out at halftime to put Cincinnati on skates,
yeah,
they put them on skates.
They turned the ball over, I want to say 6 times. It felt like in the first, I don't know, I'll just say 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And then they turned it over, I think, 6 times the whole rest of the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I totally understand that, like, your defense is going to get a lot worse if you're only post present, only rim protector, and then probably your best,
by far your best
on ball defender. But he also is a sub, so it's not like he's out there locking up the best player on, the best offensive threat on the other team for 30 minutes. But that was just a hard thing to see happen for such a long stretch. I mean, I understand that teams get hot. I know at one point they made 10 out of 12 or something, but it was like to have that happen for 25 minutes was, that was a hard one for me to sit there and go, like, we got no answers. Like, there's nothing else to even, because I mean, 2.5 minutes left in the game, you're up 7. So all of those things on one side of it, and then 2.5 minutes to go, you're still up 7. And yes, some shots seem to go in and out, but you get 5 shots in that segment, all threes. You miss them all, and you let them come back and tie you. And so, there's a lot, it's, I don't want to say talking out of two sides of your mouth collectively, not yours or mine or whatever, but like, you still were in a position to win the game, all those things withstanding, and couldn't get it done. And whether it was offensively, defensively, like when they waved off the tip with 10 seconds left, I was kind of confused why we didn't call a timeout to set. I mean, I know you had a timeout theoretically while they were reviewing the play, but I believe we had at least 1, maybe 2 timeouts.
Yeah, I mean, but they had a timeout, Dave. Like they were over with Wes. Like, you don't need to call a second timeout to go do what you just did.
Well, what they did was, I don't know what that was.
That's Dave. That's what Dave does. Dave takes step back jumpers. Like, that's his, like, this. I was thinking about this.
But you didn't need a timeout. You didn't need a timeout for that.
This is what, when you talk about like this team's inability or just lack of having a guard that can play downhill. What's Dave's most effective move?
Yeah, going away from the basket.
What is Lander's most effective move?
Standing still and shooting.
Well, and the pump fake that is akin to that, or that he plays off of that. In order for Landers to do that pump fake, it's catch and shoot, because he needs a dribble
right
after he pump fakes to be able to relocate, but he very rarely does he ever pump fake a closeout and then straight line drive to the rim.
He goes sideways and takes a jump.
Right. Your two best, they're just not downhill players.
No, I'm not even saying that. It felt chaotic in that stretch once they went up 7, that it was like, we don't know how to close this out. We don't know how to.
Because they don't have guys that play. Like, that's why you've recruited Jizzle James and Davion Thomas. That's why.
But at what point do you have to be able to figure out a way, even if it's just get somebody to the line, just get fouled. They're in the bonus. Like, just get fouled.
But you have to have somebody that plays downhill to get fouled, Dave.
Anybody can drive to the basket and draw a foul.
Anybody. You can go out there and get past Jalen Clark off. Well,
not me, but Micah could. I'm sure Dave could get a foul drawn. He could get into the lane, pump fake, get
Why
somebody.
Why does he never do it then? It's not what he's good at.
But in that situation, when you got to get a bucket, you got to be able to do something other than the only thing you do.
It's
Then we just have a team. We have a team full of one-dimensional players that basically has to blow out weaker competition, or they have no chance of winning.
Kind of.
Okay, well, that's not the position that they should that this roster should be in. That they can't generate one possession to get to the line or to get a bucket without a step back three.
You're
five
watching a
times
different team than me. Then you're watching a different team than me. They are. I believe last in the conference in free throw percentage.
You're saying,
because they're not good at it.
But you're telling me that I can't that's not a valid critique.
It's a valid critique, but I don't know if you're not good at something. I'm not going to expect you to be good at it. To be able to do it, just
not being good at something is not being a good 3-point shooter, but keep shooting threes.
Not having.
So we have a roster full of high major division. We have a roster full of high major Division I athletes that all of them cannot figure out a way to get to the line in crunch time.
They haven't done that all season.
Well, then that's an issue that's way bigger than anything we're talking about in just a specific game.
So why do you think they went out and recruited two guys that play
I
downhill?
don't care about that. I'm talking about the Tulane game.
Well, I'm telling you, and the answer I'm telling you, you don't accept because
you're right. I don't, because
you believe the guys. You believe in asking guys to do something they are unable. They are not. They have not proven to be capable.
I'm not asking. You're making it sound like I'm asking them to do something that they've never done before and couldn't possibly do in a million years.
They do it once, twice a game.
You've got to be, whether it's on Wes or a player in a crunch time situation, you've got to be able to figure something out other than let's pass the ball around and jack a three.
Well, Landers had two wide open threes.
And they don't, but that's shooting 40. That's what happens when you shoot 40-something threes.
He's shooting 50% from three in conference play.
Right, and he didn't make the one that they needed him to
What's
make.
to say that a guy gets downhill, doesn't get a foul called, and misses? They were 0 for 4 from 2 in overtime. They're bad at twos. They're bad at playing downhill and getting to the rim. It's not a strength of this team. It's not something that they have done at any point this year.
I realize that.
But now you want them to do that. When it's not what they have shown.
Then they shouldn't be playing at this level. Let's be honest.
Well, but they're here.
Then somebody should be figuring it out.
That's what roster construction is about, and that's why last year they realized there was a desperate need for length and athleticism on the wing. And they went out and they got length and athleticism on the wing.
Clearly, we didn't get that much athleticism if nobody can go to the basket.
Well, they're wings. They're not guards. Now they went out, and this year they addressed guards that are going to be able to attack and play off the bounce.
So in 7 years, we'll have piecemealed this whole thing together to where they might have
sounds about right.
a roster that's halfway decent.
No,
I mean, I get I understand what you're saying. Like, yes, that's not what they do, but like you're up 7 on the road with 2.5 minutes to go, and your last 5 possessions are all stand still, just threes. You can't do anything else but that.
I'm just like, I would agree with you that you would like them to, but I'm also not going to sit here and say, well, why didn't they do something that they have proven over and over and over not to be good at doing? If they were good at doing it, then they would play more off the bounce. But instead, this is a team that moves the ball via the pass, finds the open shooter, or the one thing that they've added that would have been able to help in this situation is Dave and Vic have been really good in the pick and roll. And now you take Vic out, and they don't have that element of having a guy that you know on the roll you can throw to, and he's going to catch it and give you the ability to score.
Just it was, to me, it was a lack of adjustments, a lack of creativity, a lack of just.
To me, it was a glaring spotlight on the flaw, the one fatal flaw of this team on offense that has been a pretty good offensive team, but the numbers will tell you. That's why I laughed my ass off yesterday early in the game when the idiot color commentator was like, I just didn't think Cincinnati was going to shoot this many three-pointers. Well, then you've never watched. And this team has proven they are last in the conference in free throw percentage. They don't get to the line, and their guards especially don't get to the line. You want to know why they're an average free throw shooting team? Most of the free throws come from Vic and Odie.
Right. Which
David Landers.
Odie was great. Give the ball to him. Are you laughing because he had a poor game?
No, I'm laughing because what were most of his points? Wide open dunks.
And free throws. Well, there's the answer to my question.
So what play? Well, okay.
Two-man game. Throw it.
You throw it to Odie, who has proven he struggles to catch the ball. You're throwing it to Odie under 10 seconds. And then we would be sitting here saying, what the hell would West draw up to throw Odie the ball with 4 seconds left in the game? He can't catch.
I'm not saying the last play of the game. I'm talking over a 2.5 minute span. You had 5 possessions. You did the same damn thing.
They got 3 great shots.
You did the same thing 5 times in a row.
And they got 3 great shots.
And none of them went in. So they weren't that great.
But there's no guarantee the 2s are going to go in. They're as bad a shooting 2-point team as they are a 3-point team, especially from the guards. The guards don't shoot 2s well.
Dave shoots 2s well when he gets to the mid-range.
He shoots step back 17-foot jumpers.
Yeah.
And floaters from 15 feet. Which is better than a step
back 24-foot jumper.
For him, not always. I mean, I don't know. Like, I know what you're saying. I just know it's insanity to ask people to do things that they're not, they've proven to you that they're not overly capable of doing, that they're not good at doing.
Right. And I'm saying, like, to me, I'm not going to, like.
So if you run a business.
I have a higher expectation that a coach and his players should be able to figure out a way to do something one time when it's needed most, or try to do something one time when it's needed most, because other teams around the country might be one.
Tulane, what did they do? They relied on their ability to get to the rim by players that are awesome at getting to the rim and shooting over 50% when they do it.
And they also made several threes in the second half too.
Off of penetration.
Jalen Cook didn't score 24 points in the second half on layups.
Yeah, on kickouts off of penetration.
Yeah. So
because they're awesome at penetration.
So what?
Because over 4 years, Ron Hunter has developed that about his team.
So we built a lead on the road against a good team.
Shooting threes.
Well, no, that's not possible because we only made like 14 of them.
Only?
Well,
do you have any?
They scored 90 something points. So they had to get some points some other way.
Okay.
Well, didn't they?
Nolly made 2 shots that weren't a 3. Micah made 1 shot that wasn't a 3. Dave made no shots that weren't a 3. Dan made no shots that weren't a 3. Finnessy made no shots that weren't a 3. Davenport made no shots that weren't like. Am I taking crazy pills? Like, that's the most unbelievable thing that I've talked about all year. 2, 3 from your perimeter players. They made 3 twos.
Yeah, what about
the entire fucking game, Dave?
All of them, all the players. Why are we only
because you're at 10 seconds? Those guys aren't handling the ball.
I'm not talking about the last possession.
Okay, 2 minutes. Those guys aren't good at handling the ball. They're not good at catching the ball.
Well, Tulane has no post presence, so maybe you could have tried,
tried throwing it to somebody that doesn't play with their back to the basket ever.
That's probably those 2 guys' 2 best games of the year.
Yes, and then guess what happened? They didn't score after the 9-minute mark in the second half because Tulane stopped blitzing the ball screen. They stopped high hedging and allowing the roller to just be standing free under the basket. They changed their coverage. And the thing that they did was taken away.
All right, that's fine. I mean, I'm done. I will not just be okay with we just shoot threes. That's all we can do.
I'm just telling you, in clutch situations, you are what your best players are good at. Like that, you are what your best players are best at. And that is why you've seen this team, unfortunately, struggle to hold leads late in games because they don't have anybody that can play downhill and get to the free throw line or get to the rim and score. That guy's not on the roster. at this point. He's not.
Well, next year when a freshman is, and he goes through his freshman growing pains in a much better.
Thomas is going to be like 21 years old.
Well, okay, in a much better conference, and we're sitting in the same spot.
You should at least have someone that has the ability to do that. Whether they convert or they're good at it or not, they can turn the corner and get downhill. The guys on this roster, they have not displayed that ability at any point in their career.
All right, that's
They
fine.
have not shown that to be something that they're good at. All of the numbers, all of the metrics on the team say that it's not something that they're good at.
All right, that's fine. We'll just.
I'm just like I don't. If you own a business, you don't go to your number one employee and say, "I'm going to need you to do something at our most critical time that you're terrible at, or that you just have shown me over the course of your career that you don't have the ability to do." But it's crunch time and we have to close this big deal. And I'm going to put you in charge of something that's out of your comfort zone that you have displayed time and time again that you can't do.
All right.
That's not how business works. It's not how sports work. The Bengals, with 2 minutes left in a one-score game, aren't giving the ball to Joe Mixon. In fact, they very rarely put Joe Mixon in the game because they're passing and Joe Mixon can't pass block.
Correct.
All right. I just I get the frustration.
I don't know if you do though, because
I
you
do.
keep explaining it away like that. I'm
not. There are reasons.
It's not a valid point that we can't. Whether
it's not a valid point. What's not valid about what I've said?
No, that what I'm saying isn't.
The frustration is valid. Expecting someone to do something that they're not good at doing or not.
I'm sorry, I just have higher expectations of players and coaches that we can't.
Well, that's a you problem.
That we can't draw up one damn thing to draw a foul or to get a basket that isn't a 3 at the end of the shot clock.
If they can draw it up, they do it all the time.
Then why couldn't they do it in the last 2 minutes yesterday?
Because they're not good at it ever. That's why they don't draw it up all the time.
All right, man. Well, that's rough then.
It's what happens when you take over a dumpster fire of a roster.
I mean, whatever. They're his players now. It's not an excuse anymore.
Okay. Then you clearly don't. You have a problem with excuses and reasons and the very fine line between them.
You can't constantly go back to like, this is John Brannon's fault.
It's a roster construction problem.
Yes.
And Wes is in year one of reconfiguring the roster.
What was last year?
A dumpster fucking fire.
So
where he had 2 guys on the roster when he took the job in April.
All right.
We give Mick all the leeway in the world for year one when he was here and how bad that was. It was almost as bad.
Nick also
got
wasn't,
a couple guys to return.
Nick also wasn't playing Tulsa and Tulane and East Carolina.
Tulane is decent, especially offensively.
Okay.
Their defense is bad, but their offense is one of the 10
Their defense
best
is so bad
basketball.
that we can't do anything but shoot threes. There's another point for my argument. They stink on defense, but we can't do anything but jack 42 threes.
Yep.
So it must not be that bad.
It's not a Tulane problem. It's a Cincinnati roster problem.
But if their defense is so terrible, shouldn't you be able to do some other things against it?
Shouldn't for 45 minutes, shouldn't those guys have had more than 3 2-point baskets between all of your perimeter players?
Not if all you do is shoot threes. How are you going to get 2-point baskets?
Because they're not good at doing it. They took a bunch of them. They missed them. They're not good at it.
All right.
That's all. It's okay to say somebody's not good at something.
I know, and it's also okay to not accept the fact that what happened in the last 2.5 minutes.
But who cares what you accept? Who cares what your expectations are if your expectations aren't realistic?
I think they're realistic, though. That's the thing.
Of course you do. They're your expectations.
Well, I think I speak for a whole lot of people with what I'm saying.
That's fine.
I don't think me saying that maybe they could have figured out a way to get to the line or to get a halfway decent look in the last 2 minutes is an unrealistic
Great
expectation.
Looks. Wide open. You don't like that they were threes, but they executed their offense and got 3 wide open looks in the final 2 minutes.
I don't like that they didn't.
Okay. You don't like it, but it did happen, did it not?
Yeah, and they didn't go in. And they blew a 7-point lead in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they did. And if they make one of those shots that goes down and out, they win. And if your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle.
Yeah, well, we're in year 2, and we haven't beaten anybody worth a shit. So.
Oh, I thought UCF was worth a shit last week, and then they beat them. Now they're not.
Oh, I didn't say they were.
Okay.
Go. You think I said
they had to beat UCF, right?
What's that?
You said they had to beat UCF because that's a decent team.
They had to if they wanted to have like a season that I thought was, I didn't say that they had to because it was a win of any merit.
Okay. But that's why they're struggling to do this, because they don't go. When you go watch Xavier, you know why Xavier's winning a bunch of close games? Because Solly Boom can get downhill, get to the free throw line, make plays at the end of the games to win. Cincinnati has to make jump shots for that to happen.
Xavier's also one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country.
They also shoot one of the lowest number of 3-pointers in the country because they have 2 studs on the inside that they throw the ball to that can score with their back to the basket.
Right.
Cincinnati has 1, and he got hurt.
Sure. So you got to figure out a way to work around that.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
No, not really.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. It's the BCJ podcast.
I was kidding. The hell? Dad just doesn't like it when someone comes back at him. That's
I don't like it when you don't care what you're given the reason why things are happening, and your answer is, I don't give a fuck. That's not having a conversation.
I completely get the reason. It's not an acceptable reason to me.
Okay, then
we should
again,
be
that's
so,
a you problem.
What? I mean, we should be so far beyond the whole that's all they do.
It's not that it's all they do.
So I should accept that and root for the team as a fan, knowing full well that hey, we better make a bunch of threes and hope that
you're a Bengals fan. You rooted for the Bengals for 30 fucking years when they were awful. You didn't know what the flaws were. You didn't know why they were bad.
Oh yeah, there's also not the expectation involved.
They were a playoff team 5 years in a row. And they still were fatally flawed and couldn't win a playoff game. You understood that, right?
Yes.
You understood why they were fatally flawed, what areas that they were deficient, and that they just weren't good enough at that point to get over the hump. Right?
Sure.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I accepted it and thought that it was cool. And
I don't accept it either. I don't think
shrug it off and be like, it is what it is.
I'm just not expecting a team that has shown. I'm a big fan of, they are what they show you they are. This team has shown me they're not a team that's capable. They don't have the guards capable to get in the paint, collapse the defense, and be a really good 2-point team. They have shown me that over 20 whatever games.
I'm being unrealistic to say that, understanding all of that it's unrealistic to say that in a big moment like that, in a game that you have to win, that it's unrealistic and too much to ask, expect, whatever adjective, verb you want to use, to figure out a way to do something out of your.
I mean, this sounds sure, yeah, that sounds great. Well, figure it out. Andy Dalton, go figure out a way to win a primetime game. Andy Dalton, go figure out a way to win a playoff game. But guess what? He didn't have the skill to do it.
You're up, but we would if if you were up at a point in time in a game, you use the Bengals as an analogy.
Like the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs.
Yeah, figure it out. Don't fumble the ball.
But they did.
Right.
And no, more importantly,
You're up 7. Figure out a way to
they
close
proved
the game.
they were a bunch of fucking knuckleheads and gave Pittsburgh the win.
You're up 7. Figure out a way to close the game.
I agree. But the way that they're going to do that, to move the ball and get Landers Nolly 2 wide open threes that he rimmed out. That's who they are. That's what they do. They did what they're good at doing. They got the guy that they wanted to take those shots, and he missed them. That's sports.
It is.
I just don't think expecting him, well, why didn't Landers Nolly drive to the rim? When's the last time you remember Landers Nolly in the half court driving to the rim and getting a bucket or getting fouled?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't care enough to try to remember. That's what it
comes down to. I know. I'm fully aware. What else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Can we talk about how Tulsa was up 10-9 and are now losing? Let's see,
100 to 9.
I'm not joking. It was 10. They were up 10-9. They're now down 49-18.
So we were joking in the pre-show about that being a 27 and a half point spread?
28 and a half.
28 and a half. And
now they're down 30. They were up 10-9 and have been outscored 40-8.
That team. Look, we joke around about this conference being bad. Very rarely do I watch a team, even in this league, and go, holy fuck, that team is awful. Like I did Tulsa when UC played them.
I mean, I said last week, you could have told me the Bengals would win the Super Bowl by 50 if I could name one player or their coach, and I couldn't have done it.
Right. I mean, awful. Awful. So not surprised that Houston is beating the piss out of them.
I did take Tulsa in the points. I'm gonna need a strong. Hey, they're right on the line. I mean, they're up. They're down 20. They're down
1.5. They're down 1.5.
I just need I need to. Here's the thing. Just keep it around 30. 5 minutes to go.
Houston pulls
Houston
everybody.
Will put all the white guys in. Tulsa will score some points and lose by like 27.
Oh, that's awesome. Outstanding. You really, now that gambling's legal in Ohio, you've really caught AAC fever. You gamble a lot of American games.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody else pays attention to how terrible some of these teams are.
When does spring ball start? I think March.
Well, the spring game is
April
15th.
Or 15th.
April 15th is a Saturday.
I think the first week in March, either the first or second week in March.
I think it starts March 6th.
Okay. For some reason, I had the 5th in my brain, but
that's a Sunday.
Way. Yeah. So then it would be the 6th.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Not soon enough, says Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, you don't love that was a fun conversation between Dave and I. What's not to love about basketball season?
Brian did point out I forgot about the win against Illinois in November of last year. So I need to give them credit where credit is due.
That was 2021?
I think. What? Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's 2021.
Well, no, it was last year, wasn't it?
Last season. November of last season. This is 23.
Yeah, that's true.
November of 22. A year from that would have been November of 21.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Oh, but yeah, so I don't know. Should we see if our friend can join us?
Yeah, you can give him a call and see if he's down.
Aaron,
you want to pop in for a second while Dave sees if he can find our friend?
I don't want to have that argument with you.
Why not?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good. Don't want to argue.
You're not in argue mood tonight?
No, I'm in a good mood. I don't want to get off the podcast in a bad mood.
See, Dave and I don't like take it personal. We just all argue back and
Before we do call our friend, I do want to say that if they would have won last night and Rob and Vic did not get hurt, it would have been my favorite UC basketball game in a long time because of all of the other things that were going on around the game.
I was so irrationally annoyed.
I'm still shocked of the number of people that think that the television issue was an ESPN problem.
Well, it's an ESPN problem because they allow Tulane to be in charge of that.
Right, but all of the tweets being fired off at ESPN, I'm just like.
The issue I had with that is the fact that ESPN still makes money off of that game, and they shouldn't. They should. Everyone who has an ESPN Plus subscription that was tuned into that game last night should get a kickback,
a penny,
a dividend of some sort.
I want $1. Give me $1.
I loved all of it because, as someone that was watching, but also had a 3-year-old, I'm not paying attention. I don't even really have the sound up. I have no idea how terrible the announcers were. I'm laughing at how the TV looks like when you used to have those channels for adult entertainment, and you'd be hanging out with your buddies.
I made last night, I was like, I had no problem watching that game. I was built for this.
Oh yeah,
that was my whole childhood.
Back in the day, you're like, I think that's a boob.
Right.
It's like your childhood.
I just
ready for it.
I feel like those channels got better reception than I got last night on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, it's like ESPN is running hundreds and hundreds of games, whether it's hockey, college basketball, I wouldn't say hundreds a night, but a lot a night. And we just happened to get an NKU game that was a disaster and this Tulane game, which basically just means when you broadcast in a high school gym with dial-up internet, sometimes things are going to happen.
Yeah. Keenan Singleton.
The sideline reporter was catching, catching
was
strays.
She was awful.
I was just like, God, I really wish that they won so I could just be this whole ordeal.
Here's the thing, Dave.
Was so much fun for me to just sit there and laugh at.
Here's the thing. I'm obviously my temper is very short right now because I've spent 6 weeks in a hospital. And I'm triggered very easily at this point in time because my life has been turned upside down and I'm just irritable pretty much from the time I wake up every day. And I rushed home. I spent a little less time with Kelly so I could get here to get situated and get dinner taken care of and all that good stuff. And then I sit down to that.
Right.
And instantly I was just triggered. They could have won. And I would have been pissy last night.
It's totally unacceptable. To not even be able. It's basically an IP address issue. You literally can't plug in a damn thing into an outlet. They do this in, like I said, in how many stadiums, arenas.
Well,
whatever.
we have somebody that's that works in that field and has been in it for 25 years on the site, and he said the problem was almost specifically a dirty line, which involves either cleaning the connection, unplugging the connection during a commercial break,
blowing in the Nintendo game,
or changing the line. Okay, this is our problem. The connection to the upload isn't good. We need to change the cable, and they were incapable of doing that.
Well, at least Oh God, Tennessee! God, you guys are just a piece of work.
I think we need 513 shirts to make a scrambled shirt that says, "I think that's a boob."
I mean, I'd
Whereas-
probably, as long as I got some royalties from it. I mean, that's my name. That's my name, image, and likeness.
We need to get Dave an NIL shirt on. I think that's a boob, and have it all pixelated so you can. It's hard to read what it says. Mike, if you're listening, let's make that happen.
Oh my god!
But no, like Dave, the color guy at the end had a waver in his voice, like he was tearing up.
Because of what?
Tulane was winning.
Oh, okay. I mean, I stopped watching it towards the very end. So like, I think when the technicals were being discussed, I was like, whatever, I gotta go do something to get ready for, bed or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I have no idea what they were talking about. I have no, like, I was living it through Twitter, which was just amazing because everyone was just fucking irate. And then, like, especially in overtime, like, everyone is just so mad, and then they bang 2 threes in a row to tie the game.
And everybody's happy again.
I love the in-game, and it's not just you. I mean, it's sports in general, but I just love the in-game tweeting. Like, just the snap reaction of, there's 5 minutes of the game has gone on, and it's like, whether it's this is the greatest game ever, or like, oh my god, I can't believe we're gonna lose, like we're just gonna blow this, and it's like, or you could just like watch the damn game and see what happens.
I became very early in that game annoyed with like I said, the color guy at one point early in the game was like, I can't believe Cincinnati shot this many threes. You didn't spend 2 minutes researching Cincinnati. They lead the conference in percentage of scoring from 3-point range. You didn't think they were going to shoot a bunch of threes?
But early in the game, I was like, this definitely feels like a over 30 attempts game, and obviously it went way over that with overtime and everything. But like, yeah, come on, dude. Like,
I think they shot 28 or 26 or 28 in the first game. Anyhow,
so a couple things. Well, actually, just one. I know there was a lot of talk about like the guy throwing the ball up in the stands or whatever, and they're not being.
That should have been a technical.
Of course, it should have, but like.
But it's Doug shows.
That's just bad officiating, which is nothing new. Like college basketball is every sport, basically.
The crazy thing is he whizzed it right past the official's head. Doug Shows was standing on that baseline. He looked right at him and whizzed the ball right over his head into the 8th row, which almost hit the top of the building.
Yes. And then what happened to get Dave to get basically 2 T's? Like
I didn't get 2 T's.
Well, he just got he got a flagrant 2, which is an ejection or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see any of the I don't know if they showed replays. I don't know if you could see replays.
There was a tie-up.
It.
There was a tie-up. Jalen Cook said something to Dave. I'm guessing because I've seen this happen before, that he called him a bitch. Because I've seen what happens when somebody calls Dave a bitch, and it's his trigger. It was also Yancey Gates' trigger. Like I've known guys that's one thing that's the word.
Safe word, stay in the bedroom.
Yeah. And that's his trigger. And so I'm guessing that when they were fighting for that loose ball and Jalen Cook started to get up, he called him a bitch, and Dave took umbrage to that. The funny thing is, Dave didn't actually do anything other than just like get in his face. Like, he didn't push him, he didn't shove him.
F2 for?
Just for standing up and getting in his face.
You have to like make physical contact for that to be a foul?
He bumped into him. So I'm guessing that's what they called the F2.
Instigating a fight or something like that.
Escalating the situation.
Right.
And then they calm everything down and they tell Dave it was an F2, you've been ejected. And as he's walking past Jalen Clark, or whatever the fuck the guy's name is, Jalen Clark, I think.
Cook.
I think he said it to him again. And that got him a technical. That's why UC went to the line, shot 2 free throws and got the ball, cut it from 7 to 5, and then had a chance if they can make a shot there to get it back to 2 and make it interesting. I'm guessing he said it again because Dave, as he was being escorted out, like it took Abdul Ado pretty much like it was a chore to get Dave to the back.
I love it. Just such a cluster all the way around.
Yeah.
That's why I said if they'd have won and the guys
night.
didn't get hurt, it would have been like my favorite game, one of my favorite games ever.
I mean, I was ready to call it like maybe the most gutty performance in recent memory.
It would have been because like the whole second half, Tulane would make a run and they would match it, and then at the very end, you're up like we spent,
Tulane made the last run.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, it was it was quite a production all the way around.
It was something. The play-by-play guy was actually decent. The play-by-play, that's another thing that frustrated me is you got this play-by-play guy that was prepared. That was actually pretty good and was fair and had good points about UC. Obviously, it was they're at Tulane. ESPN Plus announcers are generally
it's the same thing if we have Kevin Johnson on the call and the guy that
right. But the play-by-play guy I thought was actually decent. His color guy just it was nails on a chalkboard to me the entire game, and it started early because it was just obvious he didn't you're making a decent amount of money to do one of those games. He didn't even look. He didn't even bother to he looked at when he sat down to call the game. He's like, okay, DeJulius, Nolly, Locken. That's what but he didn't know anything about them. He didn't know anything about how they were good, why they were good, what the team had done. He didn't know anything. So even when UC was up, 13 in the first half, I was fucking annoyed with that. I should have just switched it to Terry and Dan. I should have, but I didn't.
Well, you probably couldn't have heard them either. They probably would have sounded like they were calling the game in a submarine like at NKU.
Well, they said they were dealing with dial-up. They said that was an issue too.
Dial-up. I didn't know that was still a thing.
Oh yeah, I guess it is. In the Tulane. I don't know.
Oh well. But I'm going to the game on Saturday.
Nice.
It'll be
first
my
one this season.
First one
since before COVID.
I think so.
Wow.
It's 90s day, so I'm pumped.
I know. I missed 90s at night for that 9 o'clock.
Rocking out some tunes, baby.
I know. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. So I think we're in 2:15. So if you're around 2:15,
is it going to be you and Will or
the whole crew? Me, Will, Rachel, my dad sitting up with us, and then obviously the big shots sit down in their fancy seats. Wave up to us common folk.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me see if our friend Dan's available.
All right, Aaron. What are you shaking your head about?
What a night!
This is supposed to be like podcasting. This is fun. You go back and forth. You have some fun with it, and then it's like it never even happened. Well, you just have some fun.
It's a way to follow up JC.
Me and Dave yelling at each other for 15 minutes.
I mean,
Aaron still don't want the smoke.
Nope.
All right. Oh, nope. That wasn't him. I think that was his cousin. We're dealing with some technical difficulties right now with our. There we go. All right, let's bring him in. Conference realignment expert Dan Simon.
It's been a while. How are we?
We're good. How are you?
I've been good. Got some sun lately. Seen
What's your handicap?
Seen some. We don't talk about that.
So, Pac-12 hanging out in Dallas today, huh?
That's the word on the streets. That's the word on these realignment streets is that Mr. K has made his way down to the Big D and might be trying to talk to them ponies.
Lambig, that's the best. Like you win comment of the month. Pickle needs her own hat and glasses.
Oh.
Alias Relish.
Yeah. You got a better chance of SMU joining the Big 12 than getting some hat and glasses on Miss Pickle.
Well, did you see like some Pac-12 folks tried to float that as well? That the Big 12 has interest in SMU also.
No, they don't. Well, I mean, if they had interest in him, couldn't they have added him? By this
Sure,
point,
sure, it would have already been done, right?
you would
Dan
think.
Simon seems like a guy who's always shaking dice and flicking lighters.
Well, I was just in Vegas.
What's a Dan Simon trip to Vegas look like?
You're not old enough to know. That's adult. That's an adults only trip.
I'm older than everyone here but Brian Johnson.
You don't know that. You don't know that for sure.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Brian's the only guy here older than me.
Well, our friend Brett McMurphy, he's kind of started this whole thing off again. He sent out a tweet. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Pac-12 Commissioner George K. visiting Southern Methodist University Wednesday today. San Diego State and SMU are top Pac-12 expansion candidates. Pac-12 needs more members and more inventory for new media rights deal, which is expected to rely heavily on digital streaming services. That is one of the funniest tweets I have ever read. There are at least four things individually in that tweet that make me laugh out loud. Well, one, that George Kliavkoff is visiting Dallas to talk to SMU. There are high schools in the greater Dallas Metroplex area that generate more buzz than SMU. And of course, our friends, the Johns, put out a podcast today talking about, you'd get that $2.6 million, all those TVs. Like you think that they're going to turn the TV on to watch SMU Oregon State.
It's like New York watching Rutgers, right?
It is very similar. It's very funny how, and I think that the longer this goes on, the more people have kind of pushed away from what they had said maybe 4 or 5 months ago and are starting to realize that the Pac-12 doesn't really have any damn clue what they're doing.
They're going streaming only, Dave.
Well, that's one of the funny parts.
Dan.
Which is expected to rely heavily on digital streaming services. So that heavily. What percentage out of 100 would you put heavily at?
90?
I don't know if I go that far, but let's just say like 65, 70.
Okay.
So you're going to put 70% of your tier one, all your tier ones going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So your best games, your Oregon, Washington, your Apple Cup, or that's Washington State, but your Oregon, Washington game is going to go on streaming.
That's the plan, apparently, yes.
If you're saying heavily streaming, okay, you're going to go down that road. You're going to be the kind of the first ones in. Okay, that's interesting. Then we've been told for how long that media rights deal will happen, then possible expansion. Well, that's clearly not the case. Because why would you be visiting these
Right,
schools?
they've made it's become very clear that they need more inventory to get a deal.
It's an inventory issue. 10 schools Amazon is not going to pay what they want them to pay for 70 football games or 75 football games. And so if the tier 1 is going to be on Amazon, why would ESPN give them any money? We get your scraps. Like we need that 10 o'clock East Coast game that bad?
Here's my question. If you're Oregon and Washington, how pissed are you that the lower tier game is going to go on ESPN in that potential scenario?
Right.
And you're going to be on Amazon with Pickle and 42 other of her closest friends watching.
Sure. I mean, there's so many things here that just are just so ridiculous. Like the fact that the Pac-12 could have killed the Big 12 3 years ago, but they were too good for Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, and now they're thinking about adding San Diego State and SMU.
Yeah.
I think, I think the conference basketball tournaments hold a key date in all of this. If they don't announce something, from what I've heard, if they don't announce something prior to that, or in right around that time, if we go past the conference basketball tournaments and George goes to Vegas and does all that and doesn't have a media rights deal to talk about, like, I think you start to see some serious red flags thrown up of like what's truly going on here.
And it's real bad. It's starting to feel real bad for them. So at what point in all this do the Four Corners, do Oregon and Washington, do these schools start looking at each other and going, we better get the fuck out of here?
I mean, Arizona has to already be, because, like, yes, football drives the bus, but they are very much a basketball school. And when you remove UCLA and USC to a lesser extent out, that is one of the worst basketball conferences. Like, it's nowhere near a top 8 basketball conference.
Right.
That's AAC level, and I would say it's maybe even below that.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have so many things going on there that I think it's overlooked from the standpoint of, like, you have Stanford and Cal that their presidents and chancellors and boards don't even care about sports.
Yeah.
Or that don't care about them in the way that you kind of need to if you want to be competitive. So you have that tier kind of over here. You have Oregon and Washington that really, really, really care. But so then, like, they're just going to be cool with this? Like, there's so much going on there that it seems like a mess. And I don't know how you get, like, if they want to get the money, they're going to give up the exposure. There's no doubt about it in my mind. That if they want to be on par with what the Big 12 and the ACC are getting, Amazon will probably give it to them, but they're going to demand so much of the content go on Amazon.
Yeah, if you're paying for the largest chunk, the largest piece of the pie, you want everything, or as much as everything as you can get.
Right, and like you said earlier, like, so then what is ESPN's incentive then if you're giving us, like, what we said, like, basically the scraps, why would we pay for that? Or here's what we'll pay you for it, because here's what the valuation is on it. I've seen possible revenue sharing with the new schools, like split revenues, not revenue sharing, but
Sure. Right.
Uneven revenue distribution. It works both ways. Like, you hear about, oh, well, now the Big 12 can get into the Ohio market, and that's true, but I don't think that's as big of a deal, because, like, how much time are those Big 12 schools really going to do recruiting in Ohio.
I mean, Iowa State tried it for
Well, no,
like
but
2 years.
Right, but I mean, like the Texas isn't the Texas.
No, but I'm
base-
saying, like, Iowa State tried it for 2 years, and they were like, "This ain't this. We're getting kids in the 30s, 40s."
Right. So,
Like,
so you think like the all the schools in California and the Pacific Northwest are just going to like jump down to Dallas when Dallas is already has a million schools recruiting it? Like they're going to come down there because
the entire SEC now, the
because
entire
you
Big
can-
12.
because you could maybe play one home game in Dallas while you're in school. Like there wouldn't even be a guarantee that you would play in Dallas.
Right. Like at all in your entire career. You could be there 5 years and not play a game in Dallas.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, it's funny to me, the whole
Yeah.
thing. Like I don't care. Like it is what it is, you know. But there's so much about it that I'm sure the Big 12 is laughing at, and I hope that the Big 12 doesn't look at it as like, well, let's go grab. Especially like I don't want San Diego State. I don't know what that does. I mean, like you have West Virginia and San Diego State.
One of these things is not like the other.
I mean, you just cross country. You have two outliers then. So you have Orlando to San Diego. No. I think the Big 12 is good where it's at. I think George K has his work cut out for him, and I think the next month will be very interesting because we've been hearing for how long that
the Pac-12 deal's imminent.
But then it became, well, then there's no hurry because they're the last one in the market, so they don't really need to hurry up. Then it was the Big 12's fault that the floor that they committed to this price, so then there's no that's kind of going to be the floor on the ceiling on the Pac-12 deal, and every month there's like a new excuse on why this thing hasn't happened, and I think most people are finally coming to the conclusion that maybe there's just, without UCLA and USC, that there's just not the value that they think they deserve, or that someone's willing to pay without being that first college league to really jump into streaming.
Yeah,
And
but
yes,
that's the thing for me, Dan. That's the thing for me. They're not doing it to be innovative. They're doing it because they don't have any other cards to play.
right.
This is not like we're smarter than everybody else. I'm sure they're going to sell it as we're smarter than everybody else. But it is, we are desperate.
Right.
We don't have any other cards to play.
You can't compare it to Thursday Night Football because the NFL is its own beast. I mean, college games never come close to getting the same number as an NFL game. It's a standalone game on a Thursday night. You're talking about putting your conference games on a Saturday in October on Amazon, like outside of your fan bases. I'm using this figuratively.
Nobody cares.
No one is going to watch.
And here's the other thing. Nobody in the Pac-12, if they're not the teams playing, is going to care. Because they don't have a genuine, like, that's the one thing that's fascinating to me is we've kind of like gotten a glimpse of like the hateful eight, as they've been called, the leftovers in the Big 12. Those teams all care. They consume each other's content. I have been fascinated with how intelligent Big 12 fans are about the other schools.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they are invested. You think somebody at Cal, a Cal fan, is going to watch an Arizona State, San Diego State game on Amazon at 7 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the Pacific time zone? Hell no.
I mean, I watch more college football than anybody I know.
Yeah.
I do not turn ESPN Plus on unless I have to watch a UC game. I will watch whatever's on ESPN, ESPN Plus, Fox, or ESPN, ESPN2, Fox, ESPNU, FS1, CBS
ABC,
Sports.
CBS, yeah.
I will pick one of those over any, like, I do not turn ESPN Plus on unless it's UC related. And I watch more college football than anybody I know. So
and ESPN Plus has a lot of decent games just because of the way that things have been set up now.
Right. So you think that a group of fans who aren't as diehard into college football as Big 12, SEC, Big 10, ACC, that they're just going to oh yeah, I know my team already played, but I'm going to keep this on because I'm going to watch Oregon State, Arizona State instead of.
Well, that's the other thing, Dave. That's not how it works. You don't keep it on.
Right. You have to go to that other game.
Right. But that's what I'm getting at, kind of to what you just said. Like, you'll leave ESPN on. Like, if you don't have a rooting interest in a back-to-back window, or like Tennessee's not playing, UC's not playing, like, you'll just leave ESPN on, or you'll go and you'll watch if there's great games on ABC that day. You'll go watch ABC and leave ABC on for the next game. Like, nobody is watching their team and then going, oh, I guess I need to go find this other Pac-12. I got to go find Colorado, Arizona as a Stanford fan.
Yeah, I just think we're still a ways away from if everything was streaming, if everybody had YouTube TV, if all of your stuff could be on Amazon Prime, that's one thing. But you can still consume so much college sports without streaming right now that I don't see it working for them. I think it's going to hurt recruiting. I think it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the incentive of ESPN and Fox to talk about any Pac-12 team or game?
None. Nothing. Zero. Dan, this is Jeff. He hosts.
Hi, Jeff.
He hosts a couple shows here in the network. He says, since it's notoriously difficult to get you scheduled, sometime this fall, we'll need you on season 2 of the Bearcat Brunch.
I've heard about this Bearcat Brunch. Doesn't it start pretty early?
It's a fairly early show. It starts at 9 o'clock on Sundays, 9 a.m. Eastern.
I got to be honest, guys.
You're usually a West Coast.
That's a little early for Dan.
Even when you're on the East Coast, that's asking a lot for you.
It is. I mean,
conference realignment is a late man's game, right?
The deals aren't done. They're not done over brunch, gentlemen. They're done, over some moons over my hammy at the Denny's on the Strip in Vegas. When you're leaving Club XO after you just saw DJ Tiesto with your best buds, that's when the deals get done.
You don't even do early tea times, do you?
Oh God, no. Why would I get up early to play golf? you get a noon tea time, some cocktails after, drinks, and then out to out with the boys. You're
like a Miami, Vegas, sometimes LA if you've got to slum it type guy.
Vegas. Miami's it's not really my speed. Vegas is my speed.
$1 million contracts aren't signed over French toast sticks and mimosas.
No, they are not, Natalie. No, they are not.
No truer words have ever been spoken.
They're signed over, 20-ounce bone-in ribeyes and $400 bottles of Camus.
All right, Dan. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you've got nightlife to experience and live.
Yes, it's a wild Wednesday here at Simon headquarters.
Do you know if your guy Dave Simone did he crash? Is he out? I know he's got to probably get up early in the morning.
No,
Is he
no,
coming back to us?
I think he's coming back. Let me see if
Okay.
he's available.
All right. Well, thank you for popping in.
Hey,
We've missed you.
Thank you guys. Hopefully, hey, when the news hits, I'll be here. So there
The
was
last time I think the last time we spoke, you were at the retreat and on the yacht, and then you came back and boom, that Monday, all hell broke loose.
I mean, it's not by accident, Chad. Good night, everyone. Have a lovely
Jeff
evening.
says special edition late night Bearcat brunch at the Waffle House in Lubbock.
Ooh, now Dan actually had Waffle House for dinner tonight.
K-Space says Dan's cat looks a lot like Pickle. That's Relish. That's Relish. That's Dan's cat's. That's Dan's cat Relish.
That's right.
That is not Dave's cat Pickle or Cucumber. I'm not sure what Dan's cat's name is. Relish or Cucumber. Maybe we'll ask Dave when he comes back. Oh, Pickle. Pickle. You got your bottom third there. There's a problem, Dave. Hey, there we go. Do you know Dan's cat? Is that Relish or is it Cucumber?
Well, I think it's jalapeno.
Jalapeno. Dan's a little more spicy than Dave.
Yeah, that's right. I think
When you have a wife and a kid, you have Pickle.
that's right.
When you're jet setting and doing conference realignment deals, you have jalapeno.
When you're a man of
On
the
a
night
steak.
like Dan is. What a guy, though. I mean, what a guy.
What a guy. Can we have Dave climb into the gizmo machine the way Steve Urkel turned into Stefan? I don't know what you're talking about, Natalie.
I'm not familiar with that either.
No, I'm familiar with that. I just
Stefan
yeah.
Urkel.
I'm just not familiar with why Dave would do that.
You're on mute, sir. Now I can't hear you and you're not on mute.
I know. I hit the
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll hit the connection on the microphone like it's in the back and I'll bump it with my thumb and it screws everything up. But Natalie, it's a great reference, but I just don't I don't know how it fits in this situation.
And I have no idea what it refers to.
Yeah. You got anything else, brother?
Well, hey, should we do a live look-in on Tulsa, Houston?
Yeah, this ain't going well for you. I checked the score a few
No,
minutes ago.
it's not. 80-42.
Yeah, it was 40 last time I checked. So, yeah, I don't think that, and is it over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my app says 19 seconds left, which is usually behind.
Mine says final 80-42.
Which I was really hoping to be able to send out like a eyes emoji tweet last night because I was following the game on the FanDuel app.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know how they do it, but the betting apps are faster than even the regular TV, not just ESPN Plus.
Yeah, they're probably on par. They're probably dialed into Stat Broadcast, which is live.
So I was hoping to be send out like a see that we hit a 3 and then send out a tweet before everybody else saw that it happened.
So you understand that is also a large part of my frustration with ESPN Plus is that I have stat broadcast up.
Yes.
And in the first half last night, Dave, there was roughly almost a 4-minute differential between stat broadcast and the live feed.
4 minutes? No way.
It was almost 4 minutes. It was almost 4 minutes. Real time, what I'm watching. There was a point that what I was watching, there had been an 8-0 run and a media timeout before the TV caught up with where the stat broadcast was when I looked at it. That's what it got better for what they fixed something at halftime where it got back to a minute, which is about 30, 45 seconds is about what you expect in that delay from doing it year after year on road games. It was at least 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes, to the point, Dave, you had to pause the ESPN feed to sync up with the iHeart feed, which is never the case, right? Like, usually you're pausing the iHeart feed or pausing the TV feed to like let the iHeart feed catch up. It was the other way around. The iHeart feed was like 2 minutes, a full 2 minutes ahead.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was livid. Livid. Oh, well. All right, well, that was an awesome show.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, see, that's what, like, you know, you and I like to do that. Like, to go back and forth. And, like, there's nothing personal. Like, we don't.
Of course not.
No, but people think that, like, because you're arguing that, like, you know, that, like, you hate each other or, like, that what I said was like, all right, we're going to end the podcast. Like, that was real and I was not going to talk to Dan Simon tonight. No, like, we have fun. That's Dave and I having fun.
No, never. We didn't say anything personal for me to be mad about. Like, you know, I don't know.
I hate when mom and dad fight. No, this is.
I
how
guess
we
I just
communicate.
don't like. Yeah, I mean, you've got to say some very specific things for me to like legit.
You got to say your trigger word. I don't know what it is, so I don't know if I've ever said it or not.
No,
it must be a busy night in Boston for Basevich not to be on to analyze some injuries. We probably should have had Blake on to analyze injuries tonight. You're right. You're right.
No, I mean, I think the gist of it is like, I totally get what you're saying. But I also think that it's cool if you're frustrated that.
Yeah, it's fine. I get it.
That those things are there and that they weren't able to to work around that in a game that, you know, we all felt was a pretty important game and you're in a spot to pull it out. Like, it'd be one thing if, like, when Vic went out, all shit hit the fan and it was just a mess from that point on, but it wasn't. Like,
they hit a bunch of threes and stayed in it.
You acquitted yourself and you had a chance to win. That's where I think the frustration comes from.
No, and I get that completely. I get it completely. I think that's like what frustrates fans more than anything is that in almost like Ohio State was, and now that one looks real bad.
This has no. You just brought this up, and we were all 2 hours already. It has nothing to do with VC, but what in the Sam hell is going on in Columbus?
I have no idea. Like, that should be a pretty talented team.
Like, they've lost like 11 of 12 games.
Yeah. Yeah. Falling off a cliff.
I mean, is Holtman going to get fired?
Maybe. I can't say one, like, for sure one way or the other, but maybe. Or maybe he starts, like, maybe he throws out that lifeline of, like, does anybody want me to be their coach?
Do you want him to be your coach after what's happened the last?
Yeah, I still think he's a great coach.
I'm sure. I say that somewhat jokingly, but like,
I know what you're saying.
Like, you can have a good beginning of the year and then not have a great rest of the year. Like, that's not out of the ordinary. But like,
losing 11 of 12
for them to just have that many losses in a row is just unbelievable. But yeah.
We now have Chris, the friend of the program, Chris Vanini, has eyes on George Kliakoff at the SMU basketball game with other Pac-12 officials. Wow. All right. Well, there's a game on Wednesday again next week, Dave. So we'll probably be back on Thursday night.
I will set my schedule accordingly.
All right. That's going to wrap it up. He's Dave Simone. Special thanks to John Cunningham. That felt like it was a week ago. Special thanks to John Cunningham and Dan Simon. What a show. We'll see you next time. It's the BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com.